Darkwing Duck has been one of my favorite Disney shows and now is one of my favorite decks to play with Winterspell. So in this video we're going to be diving into my Darkwing deck, and that's going to be happening right here on X Marks the Lore. Avast, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another video. I'm a man with a plan, Dom the X Protocols, right here on X Marks the Lore, and I hope you guys are doing well today. You guys have asked very nicely if you can dive in to my Darkwing deck that I took to DLC Ghent 2026. Apologies that it took this long to get to this video, but let's not delay anymore and dive straight into the list. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen, Darkwing, specifically Sapphire and Steel Darkwing, or Sapphire and Steel Darkwing Ducktectives, if you want to be more specific. This is a really fun deck to play. I love it to pieces. I loved playing it to pieces at DLC Ghent and still love playing it now. And it's a very straightforward list with some very straightforward tech. So let's go through the cards. First things first. 40 characters to cover to begin with, and we're starting off with our Darkwing Ducks. We'll cover all of them in one big swoop. So, in this deck we are playing the 4 copies of the 1-drop Darkwing Duck. He's a vanilla 2/2, but he has his uses later on when we get to the actions. We also have the 4 copies of the 2-cost Darkwing Duck Drake Mallard from Sapphire. That is a 4/1 with Ward. The great thing with this, because he's a 4/1, he's a very tough boy to get rid of, but the best part of him is the fact that he has Ward. So you never need to quest with him until the time is right. You can just keep him out on the board until you shift into your bigger Darkwing, and heck, it means you're guaranteed to have a Darkwing on board for when you play the Terror that Flaps in the Night later on. It's a really, really solid pick, and trades with some very scary boys as well if you just need a 4-attack boy to challenge into something. It's pretty darn great. But of course, these Darkwings are great, but it's not Darkwing Duck cool under pressure. 7-cost Inkable, 6/8 for 2, shift 5 with Take That! During your turn, whenever an item is banished, you may pay 1 to deal 2 damage to chosen characters, basically 5 cannons, and Evildoers Beware. This character can challenge ready villain characters. This is the big Darkwing we've built the entire deck around, and of course you have 2 different Darkwings to shift off of, which is fantastic. Walking through Darkwing's tech, you may be thinking that, oh, but in the deck list, if you're already analysing it, you don't really have a lot of ways of getting rid of items, so is Take That a bit of a dead ability? Not quite, because alongside Darkwing Duck, we are playing 3 copies of Pluto Steel Champion, the 5-cost Inkable 5/5 for 2 in Steel, with winner take all. So during our turn, whenever one of our Steel characters banishes another character in the challenge, we gain 2 lore, which is fantastic when Darkwing can attack readied villain characters. And on top of all of that, whenever you play another Steel character, you may banish a chosen item. So now, if we have Darkwing Duck cool under pressure out on our side of the board, as well as a Pluto Steel Champion, we can play any of our low-cost Steel characters, be that Darkwing Duck or the 1-drop Nick Wilde, and suddenly we can banish an item, pay an extra 1, and fire the cannons onto something to either lightly damage it, so Darkwing can just swoop in and get rid of it, giving us 2 lore off of Pluto, or the really cool tech that I've been using with this is to actually banish one of our own items to then pay the 1, deal the 2, and swing in afterwards, or just get rid of something on our opponent's board. It's really quirky, it does actually happen more than you think, and it makes this deck really funky. So do not sleep on Darkwing, his entire toolkit will be used, and even outside of that, he is a 6/8. But how do you take advantage of being able to challenge ready villain characters? Because your opponent is not going to be playing villain characters all the time. This is where we have 2 copies of his beloved aircraft, the Thunderquack. The 3-cost Inkable Steel item card with Vigilante Justice, so all opposing characters gain the villain classification, which now means the Darkwing can effectively challenge anybody, which is amazingly fun. So we're going to have fun with that. But on top of that, we can observe the Thunderquack, and if a character was banished in a challenge this turn, we can gain 1 lore. which is fantastic. Combine that with Pluto, that's now 3 law, 1 banish. We can only use it once when it gets exerted. We don't really have any tools here to ready chosen items on our turn, so we can do it multiple times, but that's not the problem. The main thing we're using Thunderquack for here is being able to make all of our opponents villains, so Darkwing can go in, get bopping, and get dangerous.
Let's get dangerous.
But those are the Darkwing cards specifically that we're talking about here. The rest of the cards are detectives or detective based to really help with our main engine, because Darkwing by himself counts as a storyborn superhero detective, and we are going to utilize that detective to the fullest extent. Starting off with Nick Wilde, the Sly Fox Sleuth. It's a 1-cost vanilla, just like our 1-drop Darkwing, but there's a reason why this is the case, because he shifts into the 5-cost uninkable Nick Wilde Persistent Investigator, a 5/4 for 2 shift 3 with case closed. During your turn, whenever one of your detective characters banishes another character in a challenge, you draw a card. It's our main draw engine. You will notice that there is a flaw with this, and we'll get into the flaws a little bit later on when we get to it. But for right now, this is our main source of card draw. Not our only sense of card draw, but our main one.
Nick.
And alongside Nick Wilde, we have a bunch of detectives where if they are able to banish something into a challenge, we can immediately benefit with that card draw. We do have the Mickey Mouse Detective. He's not so much going to benefit for Nick Wilde when it comes to challenging, unless we're just dealing that little bit of damage just to get rid of something. But the Mickey Mouse does definitely help with bolstering our Inkwell as best as we can. As well as Mickey Mouse, we are also running 2 copies of Francine, eyeing up the evidence. Now, when I originally built the deck, I just had Mickey Mouse Detective on my 3-drops, and I was struggling a little bit. So I had a look at all the other detectives that were available, and quite frankly, Francine looked like a bit of a sleeper hit. Not just does she have 4 attack, not just is she able to just be a threat immediately on the board, having resist +1, then being able to challenge into characters, banish them, potentially take no damage, and also get us to draw cards off of Nick Wilde, gain lore off of Pluto. This Francine puts in a lot of work, and if anything is a gigantic threat to a lot of board states, and there are ways that we are going to be able to give Francine evasive to make her even more deadly. Well, I say evasive. It'll be alert to deal with evasives. Wanted to clarify that.
It's an alert.
But with all that done, the next major detective, and debatably outside of Darkwing, the most important detective cards in this deck are the Judy Hopps. Quite frankly, I think the GOAT of this deck is the 4-cost Judy Hopps Uncovering Clues, a 3/3 for 1 in Sapphire with thorough investigation. When you play this character and whenever she quests, look at the top 3 cards of your deck. You may reveal a detective character card and put it into your hand. Put the rest of the bottom of your deck in any order. So whenever you play her, whenever you quest with her, you have a look at the top 3 cards, you find your detectives, you put them into your hand, it cycles your deck around so that even if you don't get a hit, it does cycle away things that you just don't want at this point. Sometimes it can cycle things away that you may necessarily want in the next couple of turns, but that's the gamble you're going to have to take. Anything that allows you to draw additional cards and get you into your other detective tech is good, and this Judy Hopps puts in a lot of work. And you'll be surprised how many opponents look at this Judy Hopps, sleeps on her for a little bit, and then when it comes to game 2, after they realize what your game plan is, they now look at this Judy Hopps in a new light and go, okay, I need to get rid of that bunny. And I do not blame him at all. Judy Hopps goes very hard. But you know what goes harder than a 4-drop Judy? A big 6-cost shift for Judy Hopps. So this is Judy Hopps' Lead Detective, the 6/4 for 2, shift 4, and lateral thinking. During your turn, your detective characters gain alert and resist +2. So now, every single one of our detectives have alert, meaning that they can tackle into evasive characters. Now they also have resist +2, meaning that they're going to be more resilient. Yes, this is a Sapphire Judy, but because she's benefiting all of our detectives in Sapphire and in Steel, and our big attackers are going to be Steel detectives, this now means that our Steel detectives will be able to bash into anyone, banish anyone, draw cards with Nick, gain lore with Pluto, and survive to tell the tale for next turn. You need to bear in mind, Judy's effect is only in play during your turn. As soon as it goes over to your opponent's turn, your detectives no longer have resist, unless you're Francine, so you need to be very careful, because if your opponent still has assets on their side of the board that can start wiping your stuff away, it's a risk you're going to have to take and be wary of. But that doesn't shy away from the fact that this Judy Hopps is utter beauty in herself. Fantastic card, and truly helps us round out our detective strats.
Officer Hopps, it's time.
So those are the characters. Now we get into the actions, and we're running 4 copies of Sail the Azurite Sea. It's a Sapphire deck. It makes perfect sense. We get an additional card into our hand. We're able to ink an additional card this turn. It's very handy as well if we don't see Mickey Mouse in our opening hand post Mulligan, which we'll talk about more in a little bit. But again, it's a fantastic option even if we just need to draw a card on our turn just to help us out. And it's just great. We love a bit of Sail. But then we get probably the most important action in our action lineup. The Terror that Flaps in the Night. A 2-cost inkable Steel action with deal 2 damage to chosen opposing character. But if we have a character named Darkwing in play, we deal 3 damage instead. So at worst, it's a 5 of cannons. At best, it's a smash. And all we need is a Darkwing in play, and guess what? 9 times out of 10, you're going to have a Darkwing on either turn 1 or turn 2, turning Terror that Flaps into the Night into a true Terror that Flaps in the Night. I don't have a pun here, I'm just reading it as it is.
I am the terror that flaps in the night.
It's a fantastic card. Again, a lot of people look into this, or sometimes they only take the 2 damage thinking, oh, it's only 2. That's a bit of a wasted strat for you. And I'm like, I have a Darkwing out, it's 3 damage instead. And then they're looking at me angry in the face because I just dealt 3 damage to a boy, got rid of it, and I've still got characters that could go crazy. Happy days. Terror that Flaps in the Night, very good card. We're also running 8 songs to help us out with some removal options. We're running 4 copies of Strength of a Raging Fire. Goes without saying, we're able to go quite wide with a board like this, and so because we're able to go wide, Strength of a Raging Fire, we'll be able to pop off and be able to go pew 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 on any specific targets we want to get rid of. Again, if you're going to be playing Strength of a Raging Fire, in my opinion, you want to try and sing this as best as you can when you at least have 3 characters out on board, so it's at least at the value of a smash or higher. If you have to do it any lower, do it when there is a specific target on the board that you need to get rid of that may already be damaged, or you want to damage them a little bit to then clear the board with a bop, so then you can benefit off of Nick Wilde or Pluto afterwards. Either way, Strength of a Raging Fire is a really good card. And alongside Strength of a Raging Fire, we're also running 4 copies of Let It Go, because being able to immediately remove a bigger threat on the board that we may not necessarily want to put multiple resources into via challenging is a very good point. It does bolster up our opponent's inkwell, so you need to be very careful about what decks you use this against, including Blurple, and if anything, especially Blurple, because you do not want to play this too early against Blurple to benefit their game plans. If anything, if you play this against Blurple, you want to make sure they are using a lot of their assets early on, so that when you pump this out, if they don't have a lot of cards in their hand in order to use the mass amount of ink that they're going to build up, outside of that, Let It Go is great for just a form of removal anyway. It's not like Into the Unknown, which requires an exerted character. You can just pump it out. We can sing it quite consistently with a bunch of our different characters if we so wish. It's a very good card, and that's why we play it. And then to round things up, we have 4 items. I did talk about Thunderquack. It was originally at 3. We brought it down to 2 because I found that having it at 3 was a little bit too consistent, and because of its over-consistency, we were getting Thunderquack over Francine and Mickey Mouse, and we definitely want to see our characters more than we want to see the Thunderquack itself, because we only really want to see Thunderquack when we're about to play into Darkwing, or we have Darkwing out, and we can benefit from his effect to tackle into villain characters. The other item we have is Ink Runner. So Ink Runner is here for two reasons. Number one, it's an additional form of card draw if we need it when it comes into play. Number two, it's also here to give our characters alert if we don't see Judy Hopps and they're playing a bunch of evasive guys where we need to pop into to help us control the board. Now I said it's twofold. There's actually three reasons why. The third reason why we have Ink Runner is because of the combination I talked about earlier with Darkwing, Pluto, and then playing another one of our Steel characters. Because if you've got the board out and if you're very happy to do this, you can banish your own Ink Runner to then deal 2 damage to an opposing character afterwards, which can be very beneficial if your opponent is not playing items themselves, and quite frankly, if Ink Runner is just sitting there, not even really helping you a lot. So it's beneficial, you can do that, and outside of that, Ink Runner is still a fantastic card to add into the deck to help us out. And that's the deck in the nutshell. If you just wanted the breakdown itself, that's it. End of the video for you. I hope this helps you out. If you want any more information when it comes to matchups, what you should be mulliganing for, what you should be playing on your 1, 2, 3s, etc., this part of the video is for you. So stick with me as we go through some handy tips. So ideally, when you mulligan, you want to hopefully have in your opening hands one of your 1-drops, so either a Darkwing or a Nick Wilde, doesn't matter which. For your 2-drops, it'll be great to have a Drake Mallard if you can. Better if you can get an Ink Runner, and you especially do not want Doc in your hand. If you have Doc in your hand post-mulligan, you can cry a little on the inside. You do not want to see Doc in your opening hand. You only want to see Doc later on when you really want to benefit from that card draw, or if you want to do the combo with Darkwing, Pluto, and an item. And if you possibly can, try and get into your hand post-mulligan one of your 3-drop Mickey Mouse. The most ideal thing, at least from what I can gather from playing the deck so much, is that you have one of your 1-drops, being a Darkwing or a Nick Wilde, sail the Azurite Sea on your turn 2, turn 3 a Mickey Mouse, and then the rest is okay from there. The main reason why you want this combination is so that turn 1 you set up a character, turn 2 you set up some ramp, turn 3 you set up another character which bolsters up your inkwell even more, and then by turn 4 you'll have 5 ink in your inkwell, which means that you'll be able to go into Nick Wilde and shift into him. We'll be able to go into Judy Hopps and literally play her outright on turn 6 if we want to, or at least play out the 4-drop Judy, maybe even the 2-drop Drake Mallard for 6 ink. We can also play out Pluto and a 1-drop Darkwing. There's a lot of combinations you can do as of that turn when you ink, before you ink, to help widen your board and establish your board state versus your opponent. And of course, it gets you one step closer to being able to then do the shift Darkwing, because you're already sitting on 5, so if on turn 1 you started off with a Darkwing Duck crime fighter, this now means by the time you get up to turn 4, you should have Darkwing crime fighter, Mickey Mouse detective, and then you have the potential to shift into Darkwing Duck cool under pressure for your turn. This will use the majority of your ink. You can still ink for the turn, play out another Darkwing, play out a Nick Wilde if you have that in your hand instead, and establish more of a wider board state. But at least then you have your big Darkwing out, he can start dominating the board if your opponent has exerted characters, or even quest for 2, because he's a 6/8 very scary boy. So those are what I recommend for ideal opening hands post-mulligan if you can. With that in mind, let's talk about some matchups, and we're going to start off with probably your scariest matchup, Blurple. When it comes to Blurple, the best piece of advice I can give you is this: bait. One word, bait. What do I mean by baiting? Basically, Blurple has a lot of controlling options. It can exert a lot of your characters all at once. It plays things like Hades, it plays things like Elsa, it plays things like Into the Unknown and Let It Go to be able to knock your stuff into the inkwell, and in some cases running the odd copy of Spooky Sight, which can also be devastating because that can hit all of your low cost boys. So what do you do against Blurple? You bait. If you're worried that they are running a copy of Spooky Sight, rally your board with a bunch of small cost boys, go wide, and if they do Spooky Sight you, guess what? They have now just bolstered up your inkwell, so now you may not even necessarily have to worry about Sail the Azurite Sea or your Mickey Mouse Detective bolstering your ink, because your inkwell's already been bolstered up by them. And it's the same logic with Into the Unknown and Let It Go. You want to give your opponent a reason to remove your boys. So if you have a similar setup to what I spoke to a moment ago, and you're able to get your Darkwing Duck out early, instead of challenging into something, it may be more beneficial to quest with Darkwing so you're at least at 2 lore, and then get hit by Into the Unknown or Let It Go, and then that will effectively mean that your opponent doesn't just put the big Darkwing into your inkwell, but a shifted card underneath it into your inkwell also, bolstering your inkwell by 2, giving you more ink to play with, so you don't even need to worry about inking for the next turn. You can just widen your board again and keep threatening your opponent's assets. If your opponent can out-control you, sure, it's gonna suck. Blurple does what Blurple does. But if you can bait the right things at the right time, and your opponent is too eager to mass remove a bunch of your stuff whenever they feel like they are going to be able to, eventually they're going to run out of options, and you're going to have all the options at your disposal. Because yes, Elsa and Demona are still threats, but Elsa will be able to exert one of your characters, look at your characters on your top end and go, well, if I tackle into anybody, I am immediately gone, and that's not viable for Elsa. While Demona will come onto the board and go, oh, I'm a villain. You have Darkwing. All I've done is exert your Darkwing and haven't locked him down. And that's the good part about the matchup with Blurple. It's probably your hardest matchup, so don't be disheartened. Try your best at baiting. It's a risk-reward strategy, because as much as you bait, you're losing assets as they are also losing assets. So you need to try and micromanage as best as you can. But if you can bait the right things, if you can widen your board as much as you can, as best as you can, then you have a really good opportunity to smack Blurple in the face. I believe in you. Another matchup with Darkwing that I've experienced is against dogs. Yes, the Amber Emerald threat themselves. And the good thing is, you actually have quite a good deck to battle against dogs. Because as much as dogs can go wide, you can go wide too. The problem you're going to have, and this is another issue that we have with the deck, is if the dogs don't get exerted, you're kind of stuck. So in that case, you're going to have to hard mulligan your Darkwing into big Darkwing, you're going to have to mulligan into your Thunderquack, and hopefully you're going to be able to micromanage the board from there. Or you can always widen your board and rely on options like Strength of a Raging Fire and Let It Go to just knock a bunch of their dogs out of the equation, preferably using Let It Go on the big asset dogs. We're talking about the big lady, the big tramp, even things like the small lady, the 1-cost one, that can quest for big lore, and even the 2-cost uninkable lady that can quest for big lore as well. Getting rid of the right assets at the right times is very important against the dog matchup, and you have the potential to do it with Terror that Flaps in the Night, Strength of a Raging Fire, and Let It Go. So even if your opponent does not exert or quest for any reason for a long time, guess what? You can take advantage of it and knock them dead. And of course, anything that I say here about any specific matchups are advice based on the matchups that I have had. There is no concrete way to ever win a game 100% of the time, because the game is going to be based on aspects of luck that are outside of your control. So bear that in mind, but hopefully the tips that I have given you in this video will help you out that little bit to make you better at playing Darkwing Duck at your set championships if you want to take him forward, or if you just want to play Darkwing casually, or at any other tournaments out there. Good luck, have fun, and enjoy getting dangerous with Darkwing Duck. Now, I hope this video has helped you out, and if it has, let me know down in the comments, and let me know if you like videos like this, so I can work on more in the future, especially with the deck builds that I make myself. If you want to check out more of my crazy deck builds and what I'm working on next, I post a bunch of these decks over on my Discord server, which is down in the description below, as well as on TikTok and YouTube Shorts and Instagram that you can check out as well. Of course, if you want to watch the YouTube Shorts, all you got to do is go down there, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and you're not going to miss out on any videos, short form or long form, when they come out. But if you're not too keen on the Shorts platform over here on YouTube, don't worry about it. You can head over to my TikTok page, you can head over to my Instagram page. You will get those decks also where I go through them bit by bit, go over the budgets, go over what they do, to the best of my abilities to give you a heads up on some of the really wacky, crazy ideas that I'm working on. Trust me, my brain never stops. But if you've played Darkwing, whether it be this build or a build of your own, let me know in the comments down below also, because this isn't necessarily the best way to play Darkwing. This is just my way to play Darkwing, and I'm always happy to see how you will adapt Darkwing to your playstyle. And like I said earlier about the shorts, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you're informed of more Lorcana videos in the future. You don't want to miss out, and you get to be a part of the X Marks for Lore crew, and that's bolstering up every single day. Yahar! Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, where we have another Lorcana video for your entertainment, I hope to see you next time, and I hope everything goes well if you do want to take Darkwing to a tournament in the future. Until then, set sails, weigh anchor, and I'll be seeing you guys next time. Chee-hoo! Let's get dangerous!